Today's episode 103 in the deep dives. I'm going to be continuing our talk on the book of Jude. Destry, you're going to be talking more about some music you've been listening to this past week.
I am.
And we'll see where else it goes.
That sounds great. Joshy Washy.
Yes.
I've done something this week in preparation for my music talk
Okay.
that I've never done before. I have changed my workflow. I have prepared to talk about Lady Gaga by listening to Korn. And here's the
There's
truth.
a non sequitur.
Here's the truth. I just simply couldn't listen to the CD anymore.
Yeah.
And let me say this.
You couldn't listen to Lady Gaga's
I couldn't listen to this Lady Gaga called Mayhem any more than I had to. And it's only one CD.
Right.
I don't know how many she has.
What was the reason for listening to that in the first place?
To prepare. It's the only one that I could. It's really the first CD that I found. I found it at Walmart.
Okay.
So it was low-hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. Right? I had no Lady Gaga experience, had no type of music of hers. So I was in Walmart and I went, "Just Lady Gaga, there you go, I'll get that." And not a big fan of this CD.
Okay.
But I'm a fan of Lady Gaga. Mm-hmm. And I tell you why. Here's my two references.
Before you start that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but for someone who hasn't been listening to the past episodes, why are we even doing this? Because,
yeah,
you come to a podcast that's,
right,
Christian in nature, but then the first thing we start talking about is Lady Gaga. Why are we even doing this?
Well, this year, 2026, I've challenged myself to start listening to music that I don't normally naturally listen to. And this is a perfect example of that. Lady Gaga is something that I would not normally listen to, but I know of. Right? So from my point of view from this podcast, I'm listening to different music that usually for the last 100 episodes, or however many ones of those episodes, however many number of those episodes that I've been talking about music, it's been a natural flow for the most part. Music I've listened to my entire life, or discovered that I like music from the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, the Grateful Dead, Fish, Linda Ronstadt, just to name a few. Lady Gaga is way different as far as genres go. Can we agree with that? As far as genres go. And you've asked the question before, do I listen to music as a result of my mood, or do I listen to music to put me in a mood? My natural tendency is to listen to music as a result of my mood. And I'm trying to change that also. Not change it, but I'm trying to delve out of that a little bit. Like put Lady Gaga in when I really want to listen to the Dead. Boy, that's a challenge for Destry. Boy, oh boy, that's really hard for me to do.
Yeah.
And I can usually make it through a song or two, not just because it's Lady Gaga, but of any music that I'm not in the mood to listen to, I can make it through one or two songs. I won't listen to a full CD. But if I'm in the mood to listen to music and I'll listen to the CD 4, 5, 6, 7 different times.
Yeah.
Just because that's just the way it is. Now, that being said, what I mean is 4, 5, 6, 7 different trips in my car with the same CD in, right? Not from front to back, but I'll just continue to listen to it for that many days, 6, 7 days, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to note too, like, what we don't want to convey is the idea that this is just a music review portion of the podcast, because there's a reason and a method to this too, which we've discussed in the past, of like, we're looking at this from a Christian perspective, because these are artists that are widely popular, are being listened to by all types of different people, And quite honestly, there's a lot of people in churches that are listening to all kinds of secular music, and not that that's inherently bad, but the message can either be good, bad, slightly dangerous, counter to what we would hear, preached in church, whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been part of this conversation, is looking at all this from a Christian perspective, not just the music itself, but the artists and what their ideology is. When we talked about Queen, we talked about their amazing musical talent, but also the lifestyle and inspiration that went into the music, and what our thoughts about that were from a Christian perspective.
Right.
I think that's important to note too, because while it's true that what goes into us ends up, changing our core fundamental, who we are, garbage in, garbage out type thing. But it's kind of an exploration into the ideology and the philosophy behind that.
Josh, I got on my mountain bike the other day. I started listening to what's the guy's Snoop Doggy Dogg. Snoop Dogg, because I'm experimenting with him also, just like I have Lady Gaga. I want to talk about him one day. So I started listening to it, and it was cold. I had my gloves on, long pants on. I had to stop turning music or making music fast forward or whatever during cold weather takes some effort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got to stop, take your glove off. I had to stop 30 seconds in, take my glove off, change music, because I felt like I needed to take a shower.
Right.
It was disgusting. And I'm not a prude.
Yeah.
I'm not a prude. I'll listen to music that has, some cussing and stuff, but this was ridiculously graphically gross. Sexually graphically gross.
Right.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't. And this was, again, I'll say this, it was just on Apple Music. I have no idea what year it was, where he was in his walk. None. It was just that song that I heard that he had some guests coming on, and it was really his guests that were. It was a guest that was saying this gross stuff about women. I couldn't believe it. Was just crazy.
Right.
So that kind of stuff, to me, I'm not going to review that song.
Right.
It's not even worth my breath to anybody's breath. I can't believe somebody would record that and put it out and go, this is what I'm proud of. This is the music that I want my fans to hear. Wow. Crazy. Now, I was talking to Donna about this the other day, and she said, he's been saved. I said, what do you mean he's been? She said, I have read and seen that he is now professing Christ as his Savior. And I thought, man, God is good, because if he can bring somebody from where he was whenever he spent all those millions of dollars to record this song to the saving grace of Christ, that just made my faith so much stronger. It can make your faith stronger. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm looking forward to reviewing him. Somebody like that. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That somebody's faith, where they are. Let me go to Lady Gaga real quick.
Okay.
This is going to be a short podcast, but we'll go to Lady Gaga. By the way, same thing with Korn, the lead singer for Korn. Big time Christ lover now. Follower, not Christ lover, but he's a Christ follower. And he looks the exact same. Tats from head to toe. Korn,
Yeah. Well, those are hard to
dreadlocks.
remove, even if you get saved.
What's that?
Those are hard to remove.
They
even
are.
If you get saved.
It's like the Kat Von D thing,
Yeah, it is,
she's
exactly.
completely,
That's right.
She was one of the tattoo queens of whatever, and now it's completely, 180.
That's what God can do. God can do that, and He continues to do that. He can do it for anyone. You know what I love about this place? I can look down and see cats walking by on the outside of the doors. I love that. I just saw 2 cats walk by. Anyway, Lady Gaga. Let me look at some notes real quick. And the only thing that I know about her is that, or the only references that I have is this CD and the documentary called 5'2". She is 5'2" tall. She's shorter than most people. even in the documentary, it's a guy, obviously a person that she knows because she's always looking at the camera. And by the way, there's no better way than do a documentary than to have somebody behind the camera that you know and like, because she is very endearing to the camera, which tells me she really loves the person who's doing the documentary, because she talks to him and she's talking to the camera and she says, "Do you remember whenever we did so and so and so and so?" So they have a camaraderie. It's such a great way of getting somebody's real personality. If the way the editing was made, because we all know that editing can make or break the way you want to portray somebody or something.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You can make somebody look really bad or really good. This documentary really complimented her. I have a fan. You know who I'm a fan of? I'm a fan of Angelina Germanotta. That's exactly the way you pronounce it. Angelina. Here we go. Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta. Lady Gaga, in other words. Stephanie is her name. And
it's always funny to read people's real names when they have a stage name like that.
Lady Gaga,
like
Stephanie.
Like 50 Cent, his name is Curtis Jackson,
Yo, my name is Quatus.
Yeah. Well, maybe not with that accent.
But. Lady Gaga, first of all, what an artist. She is, to me, the epitome of an artist, meaning she's very intentional about what she wears, how she looks. She doesn't just put on clothes and walk out the door. She really thinks about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There was a little part of the video last night that I saw, and I saw it a couple weeks ago also, of her talking to her stylist about how she's going to present herself in the next 6 months. There's a black and white theme for the next 6 months. Now, Josh, how many times do you think about yourself? How are you going to present yourself? And how many times do you consult with us about, hey, Chris, Destry, I think I'm going to portray a black and white theme for the next couple of months?
It's funny because this morning I did put some thought into what I was going to wear. Two things.
Thank goodness.
One is I know on Thursdays I'm no longer allowed to wear orange shirts.
Okay.
Because they conflict with the lights here, and Chris gets mad at me. Even though a lot of times I like to wear orange shirts on Thursdays and Fridays because I'm usually on construction sites.
Oh,
whatever.
right.
And so the next one was, well, here's this gray shirt. And I'm like, well, I remember last night I wore a gray shirt. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to really see anyone from last night other than Destry.
Yep.
And everybody knows I have a ton of gray shirts. So it's not going to be like, oh, he slept in this and came back to work.
So there was some thought put into it.
Yeah, but not the same kind of thought.
You didn't have a team of three people sitting there going, no.
All that happened within maybe 3 seconds in my brain.
Right.
I just want all of our listeners to know that we have an $800,000 budget for makeup and wardrobe, and it costs $800,001. Yeah, I'm out $365.
That's right. So this is who she is. She's Lady Gaga on, and many times off the stage, but she's Stephanie whenever she's sitting around talking to her friends. And this documentary followed her around in her house while she was getting massages. She broke her hip several years ago. That gives her problems all up her right side, all the way up to her jaw. So she has to get therapy and all this good stuff. And she's laying there, she's crying because she's in pain, and she's getting this massage. And she looks over at the camera, and she looks over at her friend who's holding the camera and says, I think about people who are in a position who can't afford people to give them massages, and she says, what do they do? And I thought, man, that endeared me to her, because she's not sitting there yelling at people to take care of things. She's thinking about other people who who are in this situation. You know what I mean? It's just,
I can sympathize with that. My left side's got nerve damage, and it goes from my shoulders to my ankles, and I can attest to the pain.
and you want to sit there and cry sometime if you weren't such a macho guy, right? You
that's
sit
right.
there and you'd cry. And she was laying there and she had tears coming down her eyes, but she was thinking about other people. I thought, man, well, that's refreshing to see that, you know. And in the next scene, she's got 6 people. One putting on her makeup, one doing her hair, you know what I mean? So she goes from a real person, quote, real person, to a superstar. And if there's any other superstars that are bigger than her now, I don't know who they are. Cher, maybe, who used to be Cher, Madonna. She's in the same genres with these people. Anyway, she was calling her doctor one time because she was at another doctor's appointment. She says, "Hey, doctor, this is Stephanie." And she kept talking on. Oh yeah, that's right. That's her real name. You know, so she was just being who she was. And then the next thing, she's doing the halftime show at the Super Bowl. And she's got hundreds of people that are surrounding her, they're hitting their marks off of what she's doing. I would not want to live that life. What a huge. First of all,
you don't have a life. You really don't have. You are part of now that you're the subject of the public.
That's right.
You don't have a life.
And that's a good point, Chris. Because as a matter of fact, during this documentary, 5'2", she talked about how she's had her heart broken 3 times, breaking up. One of them was a fiance, and I think the other 2, she didn't call them fiancés; she called them boyfriends. But it was just a very 30 seconds in the whole 2-hour documentary. And the ironic thing was that every time she had 3 what she considers peaks in her popularity, she was breaking up with somebody, or she had just broke up with somebody, or somebody had just broken up with her. And this last time was a fiance, and she had just secured the halftime show at the Super Bowl, which she considers a lifetime achievement award. She literally said that. She said, "I've never had anything like that, but I consider this like a lifetime achievement award." Did y'all see it? I didn't even see it. It was when
I don't watch Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Okay, it was when Atlanta and Patriots played, and I think it was the year where the Patriots quarterback. My man card is not going to be punched. I can't remember his name right now. Was the superhero and came down and marched down the field, the quickest anybody has ever done in history to make the scoring touchdown and win the Super Bowl. It was just it was a monster game. But that's whenever, and this was years ago, probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So she was doing the Super Bowl halftime show then. And it started off with her coming down from the rafters.
Right.
Hey, listen, man, I'm not getting up in those rafters. She came down from the top of the daggone rafters, man. I'm not climbing up there to even get a picture, Chris.
Oh, well, no, I've actually been the top of our Civic Center here.
Forget about it.
And I mean, when you look down, a tractor trailer even looks small.
This was wherever it was, the Superdome or wherever.
Yeah, and those are high.
At the top of the rafters, man.
Yeah.
That you've got to give her respect for that. 2 cables.
Right.
And the thing is, one structural flaw in that cable or whatever, you're dead.
It showed before they showed that, they showed her talking to her team saying, "Listen, somebody changed something. They didn't consult me." And she was real calm about it, but she says, "You've got to understand that I'm the one that everybody is queuing off of. And if you change something and I don't know about it, that's going to put everybody off." And whenever she was talking about it, I went, she's right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's right. Everybody's queuing off of her. And if you change a mark or something, and if she's off a little bit, it's going to blow everything off. Everything I saw about this girl, I really enjoyed, because she wasn't screaming and yelling and crying and bitching and moaning and all this stuff. She was saying, "Look, this is a business. This is what we're doing." And then I saw her coming down from the rafters. I went, no wonder she wants everything to be perfect. She's way up there where what I mean? don't you want everything to be perfect? You know, I want you to. If I'm doing that, I want people that I trust in charge of this thing,
Right.
that have an inherent responsibility and desire to make me safe. You know what I mean? To bring me down from the rafters. And if you're 2 foot off from coming down there, what else could happen?
Yeah.
Well, you made
Get
the
it,
point
girl.
on one of your previous, when you talk about Ozzy Osbourne, there was an on-screen or being an on-stage and an off-stage persona.
Right.
A lot of these people have
Right.
And that's what you have to remember. They're human.
They are human, and I like that. So last week we talked a little bit about, Josh, we talked about what a waste of talent that she has. And I want to, I agreed with you then, and I agree with you now, but looking at it from her point of view, it's not a waste of talent.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
It's something that we just don't, her genre, the general genre that she had, it's nothing that we are attracted to, right? It's nothing we're attracted to, but that doesn't, I want to make sure I say this right, that doesn't detract from the energy and the time and the expertise it takes for her or whoever's doing it to put on that type of show, right? Like, I don't really like figure skating, but I appreciate the athleticism of these figure skaters, right?
Well, you know, when I made that comment last week, it wasn't to say that, you know, I don't understand the environment in which her artistic talent is being used, or I don't understand the appeal of that environment,
Right?
Because it doesn't appeal to me that much,
Right.
There are other secular environments that do appeal to me, but that's not to say, like, I wasn't trying to say like she doesn't have artistic talent. She has a ton of it, but
yeah, she does.
Like, in the grand scheme of things of where that artistic talent could be deployed, it seems like that genre is more of a waste of it, because I always think, like, when it comes to the importance of art, and you think about how art has influenced culture and has been like this thing in humanity that's held such importance and stuff, and you look like at the Renaissance painters, and you look at you know, composers, and you know, all these different environments where artistic talent is used. I always wonder, like, the song that's on, you know, any one of the songs that's on that CD, if you were to fast forward history a century, will that song still be known by anybody?
Right.
Or will it still have any meaning? And
Sure.
you know, a perfect example of this is songs like I forget who sings this song, but it's one of those songs that, like, references other pop songs. Like, you know, Britney Spears was a really influential artist in the 90s and early 2000s, and there are other songs that refer back to her songs, and maybe, you know, pull one of the lyric from her songs in that song. And I always wonder, like, that's kind of a weird thing to pull back on or to reference, because, like, in 50 years, people probably aren't going to know that Britney Spears song, and so that makes this song kind of meaningless too. It's like, I don't know. There's nothing lasting, it seems, in the pop world, and that's why I kind of say that Lady Gaga's talent's a waste, because in that pop world, that tremendous artistic talent that she has, is it going to be something where people can come back a century from now and appreciate her artistic talent, or is it just going to be like, this was you know, a neat example of music from the 21st century, but we don't really get what she's talking about.
It's not like, okay, we have everybody still, you know, you have Bach, Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, all these people from those songs. That music is still around because it was a classic type thing. Will her music have that staying power at, you know, 150 or 200 years in the future?
Or think about even
but look how so transitional we are now. I mean, something that's popular in 6 months is completely out of favor.
Yeah,
right.
It's not uncommon for that to happen.
I think there's this characteristic about true art that has to be enduring. Like, think about the traditional hymns. not a lot of people sing them anymore. There's a lot of churches that still do, but when you think about the message of them, like Amazing Grace is, probably the most famous example. The lyrics and the message of it are something that remain true and current, no matter how old that song is.
Right.
But Born This Way, a song by Lady Gaga, a century from now, because the ideology in that song is extremely political and is influenced tremendously by what the popular thought is in the secular world about that particular topic. And so a century from now, is her song going to be considered like in opposition to the ideology of the day or what? Because it's not an enduring concept like Amazing Grace is or something.
Right.
Well, it's art. It's in the eye. It's either in the ear or the eye of the beholder, and
It's like temporary art.
it's temporary.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in college and I had an art appreciation class, and it talked about a lot of the class. I didn't care for the class. It didn't resonate with me. Now the architecture portion did, but looking at a Renoir, a Degas, whatever. Okay, hey, this guy just throwed some paint on a canvas. But what changed my mind, though, here several years back, there was a movie called Monuments Men. These guys that risked their lives to go save the art in Europe from the Nazis.
Right.
The movie absolutely, in a sense, made me cry. What these people were saving, it's not the art, it's what the art represents for society. Our societies are built on art, or they're built on like and that movie really made me think some of these people died in order to save a statue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that really kind of got me to the point of like, there is more to it. So
right. Well, it's this part of the podcast and the conversation is not much different than a conversation that I heard Stephanie have last night with her friends. So she is also thinking in these terms. She's thinking in terms of one, how her fans are receiving her, and how she's pivoting. And remember, I talked about she was sitting with her stylist saying, "Okay, the next 6 months we're going to have a black and white theme, and wear a lot of black and white." She's also having conversations with her inner circle about what type of music she's going to be playing and recording, and it's different. At this time, during this time when this documentary was being recorded, she was pivoting to be more of what I said last week I would like to see her do: acoustic music, and just piano and guitar, and her singing. She is consciously at that time making a conscious effort to start recording those type of songs. And again, I went, man, that's beautiful. That's great, because this was also during the time where she was being recruited by Bradley Cooper to do The Star Is Born.
Yeah. So
she started thinking in those terms, about changing the way she sings and what she recorded, and she did. And honestly, I don't know what has happened with since that time. I know that movie was a very popular movie, a very successful movie. It was a remake, but it was a real successful movie. And if you've ever heard or seen the clip of her singing at a read-through, whenever people have the scripts in their hand, they're just going through and singing. She got to a point, Bradley Cooper sitting next to her, and she got to a point where she sang a couple of verses of a song with no warm-up, with no singing, no accompaniment. It was phenomenal, guys. It was, and you can just look it up. It's on it's everywhere. She's just singing. Everybody at the table, all these executives and everybody was in the movie, just jaw dropping. Bradley Cooper looked at her like this, and it was one of those things. Whenever she got through, people looked around. We just witnessed something tremendous, and she just was singing a part of her part.
Yeah.
So her having that effect on somebody, during that movie, I hope that it resonated with her, and she said, "Well, I could do this." That would be something that would be really tremendous, and I'm looking forward to. I think I've done music on here before where I went, I'll put that CD away for a while, and I don't really want to go back to it. I am looking forward to looking into Lady Gaga of the present day, and in between when the documentary was made and today to see what happened. You know, I want to watch the movie, the Star Is Born, and see what she's doing. To see if it is something that you and I would appreciate more. With all three of us.
Well, she does. She also does the song for the Top Gun, the latest Top Gun.
Oh, does
thing.
she?
You know, and you can find it. I Heard From Heaven.
Okay.
And she's not all wild and crazy, like she's singing. So look that one up. But
okay.
I think in a lot of cases when you talk about the pop stars are reacting or acting not to themselves, but they're reacting to our culture wanting all this shock value. So if they don't present that, they're not going to be popular. So they have to be creative to provide the shock value.
Yeah.
It's probably not their personality, but if they want to make money, I've got to wear a meat suit or something like she did. It's like if I walked outside with pork chops, I'd be killed by the dogs in the neighborhood and probably locked up.
The problem is that as a society, we get desensitized to the shock, and so the next shock has to be
more. It has to be in the next one, and the next one.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at what we're talking about now with her and people like her, and somebody like the Grateful Dead or Bob Dylan. Dude, those guys didn't pivot.
Nope.
Those guys didn't pivot. Pivot's not in their terminology.
But society moves slower. Not so much. It moved a little slower. Right now, we replace things on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. Where things there.
Yeah.
A fax machine was a fax machine. It could be around for 15 years. I mean, so as we move faster and faster, the pivot value becomes quicker and quicker and quicker.
I wonder how much. There's no way to answer this, but it makes me wonder, considering what you just said, it makes me wonder if the Grateful Dead came out 20 years ago, would they still, what would happen to them today?
Or would they have been a success that they were?
Who knows? Who knows? But the fact is that starting in '69 and they became who they were. Bob Weir just died a couple weeks ago, and it broke many hearts, including mine, in the United States. You know what I mean? And that was however many years ago.
Yeah.
You know, that talking about staying power. My goodness. And he recorded up until until last year. He was recording music. And there's a whole genre of jam bands that are playing today after the Grateful Dead, you know, mimicking them a little bit.
I don't think that if the Grateful Dead came out today, they would be popular.
You don't think so?
Yeah, because I think, you know, the popularity of...
I'm a little offended by that, but okay.
not for lack of wanting them to be popular, but...
they don't have the presence on stage that would be required to make them maybe what they were.
Popularity is a reflection of the culture.
Yeah.
And the culture of today isn't the culture of 1969.
Well, we can look at, you know, I think you're probably right. We can look at even what they did record. A Touch of Grey was one of the last albums that they recorded, and it was different. It was a little different. They were on the cover with whatever on. They staged a shot on the front of the cover, which was different. And you know, and that's whenever Jerry Garcia started getting really, really popular, and he became really uncomfortable with that. So I don't think they'd want to be popular. You know, I'm not sure that they.
But in a similar way, if you took Lady Gaga and put her back in the 1950s, I don't think she would be popular.
But she would pivot. You know what I mean? She might pivot.
I'm assuming she's not pivoting.
Okay.
Like the Lady Gaga and, you know, the genre of music she produces today, if you were to take that back to 1950s, I don't think she'd be popular.
No, she wouldn't even get on the radio because of the censorship.
Yeah, I think she would be considered profane.
Right. Yep. You're probably right. Interesting how time changes, and music changes with time. Time changes with, you know, it's just
because here again, popularity is a reflection of the culture.
Right. And I'm interested to see what happens with Lady Gaga as time goes by. Remember there was a time where she was with Tony Bennett. Her and Tony Bennett were real tight for a while. Do you remember that? It was during the time documentary was recorded because he was in it at one point. But I think they did a recording. I think they recorded some things. So that has to be something kind of slow and jazzy, you know, with him. I'm interested to find out what that sounds like and how that came off.
Yeah.
So anyway, as far as her faith and everything, I think she's Jewish. I know she's real close to her family, and her family was from New York. She was. I have no indication of anything, you know, other than showing some crucifixes on her grandmother's wall and how she was influenced with that. But I think it was she probably went to a Catholic school and that type of upbringing. But I have no indication otherwise of what her faith or what her thinking was, and it could very well have been edited out or what have you. But I enjoyed experimenting, watching the documentary, not listening for this song Mayhem. I didn't enjoy that very much. There was one song in there that had potential for me to like, but other than that, it was just what you think it would sound like.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my last question is, has there been a song that you've heard from Lady Gaga that has stood out? Why has it stood out?
Well, I only listened to it twice.
Okay.
So,
Good talk.
yeah, "Shadow of a Man," I think is the name of it, and it was somewhat of a ballad. One of those songs, I think it was "Shadow of a Man," was a type of ballad that leaned towards being able to hear her voice and the inflections in her voice and really appreciate some of her songs and the way her voice sounds, as opposed to big production, you know, that accompanies her voice. Having her voice be the main thing and not her dancing, which she's a great dancer, by the way, wonderful dancer, a very talented dancer, not shy, by the way, not shy at all. She has a lot of great talented people around her, but I just want to listen to her sing and have her sing. Even when she's sitting on the piano, Chris, she's not able to sit down and just do this. You know what I mean? She's
interactive.
She's interactive.
She's animated.
She's standing up sometime and one foot on the seat that she's sitting on, and she's all over. She just can't help but move. You know, even in it was a very classy with Tony Bennett there and white tablecloths, and there was a benefit of some sort. She played the piano, and that's what she was doing. You know? And listen, she's a beautiful girl. Whenever she's sitting in front of the mirror with 16 people around her putting on her makeup, to me, she looks better when she starts than whenever they're all done. You know, her hair looks a lot better, but she's got wonderful facial features, eyes, just a beautiful girl. But then she puts a mask on, like, there's Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
You know, went from Stephanie to Lady Gaga.
Right.
Well, it's a persona, you know.
Yeah.
It's right. Like Boris Karloff played Frankenstein. It's
Yep.
That's
the way it is.
That's makeup.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, there's my experience with Lady Gaga. She loves me. She digs me.
In all of your all the time you spend listening to these different artists, do you? I don't quite know how to ask this, or even if you want to answer it. So feel free to say pass.
Okay.
So, there's what we spend a lot of time consuming ends up, changing us in some way or another. Have you found that spending a lot of time with these different artists, has it altered the way you think about things in any way, or maybe has it altered your attitude, or has it altered, if you want to go as deep as like your devotional life or something like that? What effects has it had on you that you maybe didn't expect, if any?
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer because of what I said before. I usually listen to music that reflects the mood I'm already in.
But you also said you were trying to change that.
I'm trying to change that. if I were to listen to Snoop Doggy Dogg in that whole album that I started to listen to, I'm afraid it would desensitize me to some of the stuff that I don't want to be desensitized to. I think there's some things we need to be shocked by. There's some things we need to recoil from. You know what I mean? And I hope I'd never not recoil from listening to what I heard then.
And he's actually milder than a lot of the other ones, and you wonder then why society is the way it is.
Again, I say Snoop Doggy Dogg, but what I really mean is his guest rappers that were on that CD. I don't know how you could be any worse than what I heard from that.
Yeah.
From that, I just don't. Honestly, if there's PG, there's R, there's X, there's triple X. This was triple X plus.
Yeah.
That I listened to for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. And then I slowed down and turned it and went, what?
Yeah.
I would not subject myself to anything like that any longer than I had to. So that being the case, I can't help but think that somehow it's changed me. I don't know if I'm introspective enough to know how. You guys know that I've just YouTube for the most part. Maybe Donna also knows that my personality has been different. Something happened chemistry wise with me in the last 6 months, and it goes up and down and up and down. So it's hard for me to be honest and truthful right now when I'm talking about my how I'm feeling about things, because I don't think I'm at a base. I'm not at an honest baseline right now. You know what I mean? So I don't know how it's changed me. If it has.
It's still a very interesting answer, though.
It's an interesting question. It is. I know while I'm listening, it's funny. I can listen to Korn, which is real hard. It's got a real hard beat and a lot of bass and a lot of high and everything. And I can just be like this, just enjoying it. Or I can be doing like this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the performers are just going crazy, you know what I mean? It's going just nuts doing the interesting thing is they are performing also. The way Korn and the way Tool and the way all these hard acts act, that's not the way they act off stage. They're making a performance just like Lady Gaga is making a performance.
Right.
You got me? It's different, but it is a performance.
Well, even what you two are doing, what the three of us are doing, it's a performance. Not so much that we're acting differently.
Yeah.
We're still getting up here talking in front of people that are listening to us.
Right.
Really, honestly, what does anybody have to think from what I say or what you say? It's are we being a positive? Are you being a negative influence? Is how you should look at it.
Recently, the last 6 months to a year, I don't really care. That's my whole thing. I don't want to be a negative influence to anybody's salvation. I'm real careful about that. So the way that I deal with that is I remove myself from the environment. If I think I'm being a negative or I'm being less than positive, I can't even be neutral, I will remove myself, even if that's at church. If I'm at church and I find myself in a mood that might negatively affect somebody, I will leave the church. I'm not always successful at
Right.
I was leaving last night and I had an interaction that was less than positive. Just because somebody came up to me and started talking to me.
Right, the wrong moment.
At the wrong moment. The nerve of you to come up and ask me a question.
I'm dealing with something right now.
Don't you know?
Well, even if like myself, I've gotten to the point I don't even want to leave my house just because of all of the insanity that's out there.
And I hope that, for me, I know it's temporary. I've gone through this before. I hope it is with you also. Because there's times I walk out and go, man, what a great day.
I don't know if it's temporary. I got new couches that have heated seats and massage around them. I don't have to leave.
You are making your home. You're home. You got to stay there.
I just need the 26-foot walls of stone with the boiling tar
That's
on top
all you
to
need.
keep the people out. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I think it's interesting going back to one of the things you said about Lady Gaga and her conversation with her team. Is if because so many people are depending on her, any slight change in what she's doing has ripple effects that affect everybody else, and that's an important concept to understand, especially in our own Christian lives, because our relationship is with someone who's unchanging, and there's a comfort in that knowledge because so much is riding on that relationship. It's important to know that the focus of that relationship is unchanging, because, like you just attested, we're always changing. We're changing from day to day. The situations that we face change our mood. The music or the things that we consume changes our attitude. Even if it's subtly, and all of that has ripple effects with the people around us. like your interaction last night, where you were dealing with something and someone approached you at the wrong moment, and because you were dealing with something, it affected your interaction with that person, And
I didn't want any froth on my coffee right then.
Right, exactly. And
I didn't like the coffee either, but anyway.
and so, and this is going to get into what we're talking about in Jude too, because the one of the most important characteristics about God is that He's unchanging.
Right.
And oftentimes when it seems like He does change, it's really us that are changing. And it helps to realize that. And Jude actually warns of that in the introduction to his book, one chapter book in the New Testament. They call it a book. It's kind of funny.
More like a letter.
Yeah. And because he starts out saying, I was going to write about salvation that's common to all of us.
Yeah.
But it was necessary for me to write about this issue that's come up in the churches. He said, I have to exhort you to contend for the faith. That's how he says in verse 3. He said, I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, or when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that ye should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. And we talked about this last week when we went through these verses, but he says, there are certain men crept in unawares who were before of old ordained to this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness and denying the only Lord God and our Lord Jesus Christ. And so he gives that warning, which we talked about last week, but he starts to, in verse 5, he starts to give us indicators of how we can recognize the sources of this corruption that has crept in unawares into the Christian world. And he said in verse 5, I will therefore put you in remembrance, though you once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not. And he actually goes through three examples in 5, 6, and 7. And in verse 8, he sort of sums it up. He's like, these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities. And that's why I was wondering, in your the time that you spend listening to all this music, because there are excuse me, there are artists that we've been talking about who aren't necessarily interested in pursuing what God would consider to be upright and righteous and all that kind of stuff. And so they kind of fall into this category a lot of times, defiling the flesh, despising dominion, speaking evil of dignities. This type of trait that Jude is warning us about that's creeping into Christian circles. I think that's why it's important too, as we're talking about this, that we're talking about it from a Christian perspective, because a lot of these artists, they're a large piece of the diet of our consumption on day to day. One of the criticisms here in Jude is that there's like this mask we put on Sundays where we say, this is the system we believe in. God rules through institutions like church and things like that, and and there are things that we partake of that are considered sacred and that we attest to holding dear. But then when the rest of the week comes, we sort of abandon that, and we and we mainly consume a diet that's primarily secular. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily just music. It could be our practices in business. It could be the movies that we watch, or the friendships that we that we partake in. All kinds of stuff. But it's like, how real is the Sunday version of us versus the Monday through Saturday version of us? Mm-hmm. And are we one of the sources of what Jude is talking about? Of on Sunday mornings when we're in this Christian environment, are we sort of this secular anti-God sentiment that has crept into the churches and are having an effect on other people? Are we the ones that Jude is warning about? Well, verse 5, he gives this example of Israel after they had been delivered from slavery in Egypt. He said, the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believed not. And I think to do this, to talk about this, we kind of have to talk about a pattern that starts to show up in the Old Testament. And I think it starts probably with Babel, because in the first chapters of Genesis, we read about creation, fall of Adam and Eve, and then we get this long genealogy that goes from Adam to Noah, and then we find out in Genesis chapter 6 that the world is characterized primarily just by evil, and there's only one person that found grace in the eyes of God, and it was Noah. And so to correct the problem on earth that was just evil everywhere, God sent a flood, and Noah and his family were saved through that flood. And then immediately after the flood, God tells Noah and mankind in general that spread out, repopulate the earth, replenish the earth. Here's a couple rules that guide humanity, all this stuff. And the account right after that is the account of Babel. So he gives us, the scripture gives us the genealogy of Noah, who his descendants were through him, Shem and Japheth. And it pauses at this guy named Nimrod and the cities that end up getting founded under his leadership, and how he led people in the first rebellion against God post flood. God said, replenish the earth, spread out. And everyone said, no, we're not going to do that. And actually Josephus, a first century AD historian, he wrote Antiquities of the Jews, sourcing material from other ancient sources and stuff like that, gave a lot of a lot of information that's not necessarily incorporated into Scripture, but give us insight into the world views of the time, things like that. And he wrote about this time period where the rebellion against God was multifaceted. One was you killed our ancestors with a flood, so we're going to build a tower that can survive the next flood. And not only that, but we're not going to spread out because we think you're trying to divide and conquer. If we're going to be oppressed, it's going to be easier to oppress us if we're all spread out. So we're not going to spread out so that we're not oppressed. And also they said in this account that Josephus records, he said that the people believed that it was not by God's by by God's power or by God's interaction with humanity, that they would experience any happiness or anything like that. But it was their own power that was going to overcome adversity. It was their own power that was going to make the world a better place. And so this multifaceted rebellion against God resulted in the Tower of Babel. We're going to build this tower. We're going to overcome whatever God decides to throw at humanity next. All this stuff, and we're going to become self-sufficient and no longer need him. And so it says that God, because humanity didn't learn the lesson about evil after the flood, but also because God promised not to destroy all of humanity again, he instead decided to confound the languages, and there you get the spreading of the nations and all that stuff. And Deuteronomy 32 talks about the transition of leadership between Moses and Joshua. And Moses kind of gives this farewell address to Israel and reminds them a little bit of their past. Now remember, this is the same Israel who immediately after getting delivered from Egypt, they're at the base of Mount Sinai, and they're like wondering, where the heck is Moses? He's been gone for weeks. I guess he's gone. So we're just out here on our own. We're going to make an altar with an idol of a golden calf, and we're going to worship that. And the mantra was, these are the gods that delivered you from Egypt. Exodus also talks about them not only worshiping it, but starting to engage in the same type of pagan practices that characterize the pagan nations around them. Massive idol worship, public orgies, nakedness, all this other stuff at the base of Mount Sinai, where the presence of God had descended and was communicating with Moses. So kind of like in the presence of God, they're doing this. Mm-hmm. And a huge problem. And if you've read that account in Exodus, you see the discipline that came at the end of it, and Moses pleading with God, like, don't destroy this nation. Yes, they did something bad, and that needs to be addressed, but don't do it in a way that destroys this entire nation and all this stuff. Well, Moses is reminding them of this at the end of his tenure, at the end of his leadership of Israel in Deuteronomy 32, and he's like, ask the elders, go back and ask your fathers, and go back and ask, consult the previous generations. He's like, they'll remind you of this time way back in history when God divided the nations. And he said that was a result of rebellion, and God divided all the nations, and out of those nations he picked one guy to be the father of the nation that was going to be considered God's inheritance, and was ultimately going to be the mechanism that God used to bring about the salvation of all of the nations that had rebelled. And he said Jacob was his inheritance. And right after that account of Babel, the very next chapter is him calling Abraham an idol worshiper from Ur of the Chaldees. And, Jude is reminding the reader about the rebellion of Israel in order to give us this ability to recognize the patterns of these people that are infiltrating the churches. They're people that are not just, they're not like in a very obvious way rejecting God, but they're doing it in a subtle way that's infecting the attitude of the churches. So they're speaking evil of dignities, they're defiling the flesh, they're despising dominion. The same type of attitudes that were exhibited in Israel, same type of attitudes that were exhibited in Babylon. Because what was the attitude of Babylon? We reject God. It was open rebellion. We reject God. We reject His plan. We're going to do our own thing, and we're going to be self-sufficient and all this stuff, and we don't need God anymore. At the base of Mount Sinai, what was Israel doing? These are the gods that delivered us from Egypt. Moses has left us. So we're just openly going to reject this whole thing and move in this other direction. But what's creeping into the church is the same attitude, but in a very subtle way. It's not open, or it's not obvious and in people's faces like those other ones were, but it's the same sentiment. And so you have to think about the church today, like defiling the flesh. How has, and these are just, there's many examples. I'm just pulling a couple out, but like defiling the flesh. When you have, these pagan nations practicing, all types of different sexual immoralities and stuff like that. And you think of today in modern church, that type of sentiment is coming into the church, whether it's the popular gender ideology today, or the massive divorce rate that's coming into that's in churches that almost equals that of the secular world. We have all of these things, or defiling the flesh in that we think, okay, I can engage in this type of practice, whether it's how many people in the church are alcoholics, or addicted to pornography or things like that, and we don't deal with that. We don't hold each other like mutually accountable for this stuff, but we just let that grow in church, so that on Sunday morning I have this mask on that says I'm upright, I'm doing everything that's right, I believe in this system, I follow God, I agree with the theology in Scripture, all this stuff, but then the rest of the week I don't. And then the next week happens and I repeat that. And that grows in the church. Defiling the flesh, despising dominion, speaking evil of dignities. Despising dominion, there's a plan that God has for our lives and a role that we play in this body of Christ. Are we rejecting that? When we talk about the armor of God and the role that plays in our spiritual life, do we really practice that outside of church? Do we engage in our business practices in a way that's honoring to God, in a way that's ethical, in a way that's truthful? Are we varying, and as a result, causing a ripple effect around us? Like I said, there's a bunch of different examples, but that's the first one that Jude talks about. And so the second one that we'll talk about next week, in verse 6, it says, "And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day." Here again, another example of defying the flesh, despising dominion, speaking evil of dignities. And so the takeaway from all this is, yes, there is a philosophy that's invading Christianity today, that's corrupting the message of Scripture, the overall message of Scripture. And we have to be aware of that and able to recognize it. But the difficult thing to accept is it might be possible that we are part of that corruption. And we have to constantly audit our own beliefs, our own actions, to make sure that we are compatible with the gospel of Christ, with the message of Scripture. So, yeah, there we go. Heavy stuff.
Heavy introspection, for sure. Thanks, Josh. All right, Chris, anything else you want to add before we go? I'm going to vote we get a camera on you because you add to the podcast.
We tried that.
I know. And
I broke the camera.
And then I'm going to be selfish. We have stupid looks on our face whenever you're talking, and the camera's not in your face. We're going.
I have stupid looks anyway.
The camera's got to be somewhere. I'd rather it be on. No, I'm just kidding. I would like to see a camera.
Or just flash a picture whenever you're talking. So it's just Chris. It's like.
I'm not editing that out because I switched to you to do that.
That could be the thumbnail. Probably is going to be the thumbnail.
Yeah, probably. Whenever I see a thumbnail of me that I don't like, then I go back and put a new thumbnail. Like last week, when it uploaded, the thumbnail was something of me doing something stupid. I don't know. I was like, I don't like that at all. So I pulled up Canva and made a thumbnail for it and uploaded it.
By the way, I like the Bob Weir pictures you put in the last week's episode. As good as early one and a later one.
That's what I want to go for. So.
Very good job on that, Chris. Thank you for that.
No
Thanks for
problem.
honoring him like that.
I designed stormwater ponds, and you have to design a way for the pond to leak water out in a controlled way. You put a weir on the outside.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and the like an ideal shape of a weir is called a Kippoletti weir.
A Kippoletti
Yeah,
Weir.
I think Kippoletti weir is Bob Weir's brother.
I call him Kip.
Kip Weir.
There's a whole push now, of, T-shirts and everything. It says "We're everywhere." I'm not just We're, but we're everywhere. Anyway.
Actually, this past week was kind of like one of my high school teachers. He passed away on the 16th. He was hugely influenced, and it was just we're sitting there just devastated when we got that news. It's just he just went unexpectedly. So that was something like, wow, it brought the mortality of things into perspective very much so.
What was his name?
Gary Boggs.
Gary Boggs. There you go.
And so, he's the reason I'm the way I am today.
And you want to honor him? All right, Chris. Thanks, man. Thanks, Josh, Donna. I love you, and we'll be back next week for sure. See y'all then. Bye.